3 people are dead, passengers are being airlifted across multiple continents, and the world is once again scrambling to contain an outbreak from a virus we have known about for decades. The MV Hondius cruise ship became the site of a hantavirus emergency that sent Spanish, British, and international nationals fleeing to hospitals in Johannesburg, the Netherlands, and Tenerife. Experts are urging calm, saying this is nothing like COVID. But the fact that we have no vaccine and no treatment for a virus documented since the Korean War is a question that demands a serious answer. Joining me now are Alex Park, our technology and science analyst, and Marcus Webb, our defense and security analyst. Alex, let me start with you. Is the institutional response to this outbreak evidence that post-COVID preparedness spending was essentially wasted?
Thanks, Emma. Look, I'll be direct. Yes, almost entirely wasted, and the MV Hondius situation is the proof. We were told, after COVID, that the world had learned its lessons. CEPI was funded. The WHO's priority pathogen list was updated. G7 governments signed preparedness frameworks. And here we are in 2026. 3 people dead on a cruise ship from a virus that has been killing people since the Korean War. And the global response toolkit is supportive care and a prayer. No vaccine, no targeted antiviral. Christian Brechot from the Institut Pasteur is right that human-to-human transmission is rare, and this isn't COVID, I'll grant him that. But he also said himself that we need faster testing and stronger outbreak response systems. That's an admission of failure, not a reassurance. Ben Shapiro has made this point brilliantly. Government institutions optimize for the last crisis, not the next one. Every dollar spent on mRNA infrastructure, every bureaucratic pandemic preparedness committee, and hantavirus research still sits at early stage. The uncomfortable truth is that we built a COVID machine, not a public health system.
But Alex, devil's advocate here, isn't it unreasonable to expect governments to have vaccines and treatments ready for every single pathogen on a list? Resources are finite, and the experts are saying this is contained. Isn't there a risk you're crying wolf? And Marcus, what's your take on this?
Well, look, I think Alex is making a valid point, but framing it slightly too broadly. Here's what I think Alex is missing. This isn't really about whether we vaccinated against every possible pathogen. It's about triage failure and incentive structures. The market doesn't develop hantavirus treatments because it primarily kills people in rural and remote environments without the purchasing power to make a blockbuster drug commercially viable. That's a real market gap, but governments, particularly post-COVID governments, flush with preparedness funding, were specifically supposed to fill that gap. The CDC data is damning here. Hantavirus pulmonary syndrome has a 38% case fatality rate in the United States. That's not a minor rodent problem. And the fact that a 69-year-old British passenger ended up in intensive care in Johannesburg rather than being swiftly repatriated tells you everything about the state of coordinated response. The logistics were improvised. The protocols were reactive. 3 people died, and we're still debating whether to worry.
I hear what Marcus is saying, but with respect, that misses the point entirely. He's treating this as a resourcing problem. It's not. It's a prioritization problem driven by institutional politics. The WHO has had hantavirus on its priority pathogen list for years. Years. And the vaccine pipeline is essentially empty in Western markets. South Korea has a licensed vaccine for the HFRS variant. We don't. That is a political and bureaucratic failure, not a resource failure. And I'll go further. If you look at what Western health bureaucracies have been focused on post-COVID, it's been theatre, digital health passports, equity frameworks in medical research prioritization, DEI mandates embedded in funding criteria. Meanwhile, a virus with a 38% kill rate in its pulmonary form has no treatment. That should be a scandal. It should have politicians answering questions in Parliament. Instead, we're getting press conferences about how this isn't COVID.
Here's what I want to know, and this is the forward-looking question that really matters. If we see secondary cases emerge among repatriated passengers in the coming weeks, does this containment story fall apart completely, and who bears political responsibility? Marcus, where do you see this playing out?
The way I see this playing out, the most likely outcome is that containment holds, secondary transmission stays minimal because the epidemiology genuinely does not favor it, and the story fades within a fortnight. But here's the trajectory I'm watching very carefully. the political aftermath. There are forces in Brussels and within the WHO treaty negotiation process that have been waiting for exactly this kind of event to push for expanded supranational health governance. If cases start popping up in repatriated passengers across Europe, watch for the argument that national health systems can't handle this alone and that we need centralized European health authority. That power grab is the real risk here, not the virus itself.
Here's what concerns me most: the 2-week window. Hantavirus has an incubation period that can run up to 8 weeks in some cases, though typically 2 to 4 weeks. Passengers have already dispersed to Spain, Britain, and multiple other countries. If those individuals are not being actively monitored with the right serological testing, and Brescio himself said rapid testing capability needs to be improved, we could be in a situation where cases emerge in GP surgeries and emergency rooms where clinicians have never seen hantavirus before. The risk is a diagnostic delay compounding a medical emergency. National governments need to be proactive right now in briefing their health systems, not reactive, not waiting for the WHO's next situation report. If Rishi's successor in Downing Street, whoever's running British health policy, isn't on the phone to NHS trusts about this today, that's a failure of sovereign responsibility.
Alex Park, Marcus Webb, genuinely important analysis tonight and a story that isn't finished yet. One thing is certain, the MV Hondius may be docking in Tenerife, but the bill for decades of hantavirus neglect hasn't been paid yet.